So let's talk about the 2026 housing market. Our source material is pointing to something really specific, something you're not going to want to miss, a window of opportunity. Seriously, this is a moment that could completely change the game for both buyers and sellers. But what are the signals? And more importantly, how do you act on them? Okay, let's dive in.
Does this sound like you? For what feels like forever, a lot of us have been parked on the sidelines of the housing market, just waiting for that perfect, right time to jump in. Well, if that's you, then you're in the right place, because that long wait might just be about to pay off.
So what's actually changed? Well, we're not in that chaotic, headline-grabbing frenzy that we've seen for the last few years, not even close. Instead, we're starting to see a whole new rhythm for the market, one that's a lot quieter, a lot healthier, and honestly, built on a much more solid foundation.
Yeah, forget those explosive boom or bust cycles. What's happening right now is this: quiet, steady buildup of momentum. It's a gradual strengthening that you could easily miss if you're just paying attention to the flashy headlines. So what are the actual signs of this shift? What can we really point to?
Okay, let's break down what this quiet momentum actually looks like. We're seeing more people applying for mortgages. We're seeing more homes going under contract. And yes, we're seeing a modest but really important increase in the number of homes for sale. And at the same time, prices are finally stabilizing instead of making these wild, unpredictable swings. See, these aren't just random data points. They are the building blocks of a healthy, sustainable market.
So what's the engine behind this new market rhythm? It really all comes down to one absolutely crucial factor: that big recent shift in mortgage rates.
After peaking up above 7%, rates have now settled down into the low 6% range. Now, I know that might not sound like some huge dramatic drop, but believe me, its impact on what people can actually afford is massive. It's the single biggest key turning in the lock.
Let's put some real numbers to this, okay? On a $400,000 loan, just that 1-point drop from 7% to 6% saves you around $270 every single month. That's over $3,200 a year back in your pocket. For a lot of families, that's the difference, the literal difference between being stuck renting and finally being able to afford a home.
And here's the real kicker. That 1% isn't just saving money for a handful of people. It is unlocking the entire market for millions of households who are completely priced out before. This is creating this huge pool of pent-up demand that is now, finally, able to get back in the game.
Which brings us to the opportunity for buyers. If you're looking to buy a home, this is the part where you need to lean in. Understanding this moment right now is the key to getting an advantage before the market really heats up again.
A lot of potential buyers are still on the fence, thinking, maybe I'll just wait for rates to drop even more. But here's the key insight from our source material. The biggest, most impactful leap in affordability, it's already happened. Chasing that perfect rate down the road could mean you miss out on the best window of opportunity we've seen in years.
So what's the game plan here? Well, first, just acknowledge that the landscape has already shifted in your favor. It really has. Second, use this moment of lower competition to actually get some negotiating leverage. And third, you got to think about moving before that traditional spring surge brings a flood of other buyers into the market, which always drives up prices and competition.
All right, now let's flip the coin and look at this from the other side. If you're thinking about selling your home, this stabilizing market offers a pretty unique advantage, but you have to have the right strategy.
Okay, so even with that slight increase in inventory, there are still more buyers out there than available homes. That means we're still in what's called a seller-leaning market. And with demand picking up, listing your home now, before that spring rush of new inventory hits, gives you a powerful chance to stand out to a whole pool of really serious, motivated buyers.
This quote just nails the seller's playbook right now. Success isn't about chasing the latest headline. It's about smart timing and strategic positioning. If you price your home correctly right now, you can catch that wave of motivated buyers who are just re-entering the market.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. To really get why this moment is so different, we need to understand how we got here. Because this isn't some random fluke, it's a logical progression.
Man, the market's journey has been a total whirlwind, right? First, we had that insane, unsustainable acceleration during the pandemic. Then came the shock of rising rates that caused everything to cool down and adjust fast. And that brings us to today, this period of stabilization, where the market is finally finding that healthier rhythm we've been talking about.
So here's the bottom line. We are in a phase where stabilization is turning into strength. And this sweet spot is precisely where the real opportunity is. This is a market that rewards people who make thoughtful, data-driven decisions instead of emotional knee-jerk reactions.
So, what's your next move? If you've been watching from the sidelines, it is time to get in the game. Rerun your numbers with today's rates. Have a real, serious conversation with a real estate pro. It's time to find out what's actually possible for you in 2026. Because in the end, momentum rarely ever shouts. It builds quietly, week by week. The data shows it's building right now. So the only real question left is, are you listening closely enough to hear it?